Salutations and welcome to the farm. I've shared with some of you about how my vision board changed my life. And I've had some of you say, I need to know more about this vision board and how do you make this vision board and what exactly is going on. So I thought I would share a video with you about my vision board and how it changed my life. So let me tell you a little bit about how this vision board came to be. I'm going to leave this spot open right here so I can put some pictures in. I'll insert some pictures here. So as I explain to you how things happened with this vision board and just how it came to be. So in January, during winter break, I worked for a school and one of the teachers was having a brunch at her home and she had invited me and she said, I've got everything taken care of. We're going to have brunch. We're going to do some crafts. I just ask that you bring some old magazines. If you can find some old magazines, we're going to be doing a project. So I gathered up some old magazines and I went to my friend's house and we had a beautiful brunch. We had mimosas and quiche and we did some crafts and it was so wonderful. And after everybody had just kind of gotten acquainted with everyone and we were done with our small chit chat, she instructed all of us to go into the living room and sit in a big circle, and we threw all of the magazines that all of us had brought into the center of the room. And she said, just at random, grab a magazine. Don't grab one that you brought yourself, but grab a random magazine and just start flipping through the pages. And as you're sipping on your mimosa and talking with your neighbor, if you see something that jumps out at you, cut it out. Don't try to rationalize it. Don't try to say why you like this picture or why it has an impression on you. Just as you're flipping through and talking without even really giving any thought, if you see a picture or a phrase or words, cut it out and put it in a pile next to you. So that's what we did for about the next 20-30 minutes. We all just had a wonderful time with our mimosas. We were flipping through the magazines and cutting out pictures. After we had our piles assembled, she handed out some glue sticks and poster board. And she said, now what I want you to do is I want you to go through the pictures that you cut out. You don't have to use them all, but go through the pictures that you cut out. And I want you to make a collage on your poster board. Now keep in mind, I didn't know we were making a vision board. She didn't say we were making a vision board. Even if she had, I didn't even know what a vision board was. All I know is we were to do this. So I started putting all of my pictures on my vision board. And when we first arrived, our hostess met us at the door as we would arrive at our home. And she had this sweet little basket with little scrolls of paper in it. And she just instructed us to take one, put it in our pocket, don't open it, don't read it, that it would come in handy later in the day. So we built our collage on our pieces of poster board. And then she said, now I want you to take the scroll that I gave you at the beginning of the day when you first got here, and I want you to affix that to your poster board. And so I did. And it was a quote from someone who I was not familiar with. And then she said to all of us, she said, now I want you to take a good long look at your poster board. This is your vision board. You subconsciously picked out things that speak to you, and you've made this collage, and now it's time for you to interpret it and see what it is that your subconscious is telling you. So I took a good long look at my board, and I had right dead center, I had Amelia Earhart. And I remember she was the first picture that I had found that I cut out. And I cut her out because, she was fearless. She struck out. She did what she wanted to do. No questions asked. She just did what she wanted, right? And I thought, what a wonderful role model. And if I could only be more like Amelia Earhart, she was right in the center. There was this woman smiling up at the sun with just this look of joy on her face, surrounded by flowers. And I thought, she's just really living in the moment, and how wonderful. And she's just so full of joy. And she was on there. And then I had a country kitchen with the pots hanging on a pot rack and all of the beautiful plates and flowers and pumpkins that you would find in a country kitchen. And I looked at it and I thought, I'd really love to have a country kitchen someday. And then as I looked around more on my board, there was this little girl in a garden, and she's holding 2 ripe tomatoes up over her eyes, and she's making a funny face. And I thought, someday I'd like to have a garden. As you scroll around, there were just different words about friends and walking and worth. Worth really stuck out to me too. I needed to learn to determine my worth and embrace that. I had a picture of sunflowers in a vase, and I just love sunflowers. I'd never lived anywhere where I'd ever even grown sunflowers, but I love it when I would get a bouquet from the florist. If Jim would get me a bouquet and it would have sunflowers in it, I loved that. There was a picture of a clawfoot tub, which has always been a dream of mine to have a clawfoot tub. Oh, I wanted one so badly, and I had put that right in the middle as well. There was a row of trees, like a grove of trees with no leaves in the middle of winter and snow everywhere. And I just thought it was so serene and beautiful. So I cut that out and I had put that on my vision board. In one of the corners of my vision board, there are crocheted items. I love to crochet. And there are crochet items with, fingerless gloves and hats and scarves. And I had posted right in the middle of it, make your talents pay. There were some more bowls, some vintage bowls from a country kitchen. And then right in the lower left corner was this beautiful white farmhouse with a Gothic window. And I thought, oh, someday I would love to have a white farmhouse. And I took that quote and I put it right in the middle of the entire board. And I looked at everything in its entirety. And my friend asked me, she said, what does this say to you? And it dawned on me, it says to me, I need to move to Iowa. I want to move to Iowa. Now, I had been trying for 28 years to get my husband to bring me to Iowa. We lived here in 1985, had one of the worst winters in 100 years. And when the snow thawed, he said, that's it, I'm out of here. And we packed up and we moved to Texas and then eventually to California. And for those 28 years, I've been trying to talk him into coming back to Iowa because I loved it here. Spent a lot of my childhood summers here. I loved it. But he wouldn't budge. And so what I thought I would do, according to this vision board as I interpreted it, I thought, I'm going to start crocheting again. I hadn't crocheted in a while. And I thought, I'm going to get my hooks out. I'm going to get some yarn. And I'm going to start crocheting again. And I did. And I wore a hat to work. And everybody's like, I love that little hat. And I thought, I'm going to start selling these. So I sold hats and I sold scarves and I sold fingerless gloves, and little by little, $10, $15, $20 was coming in. And I thought, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to stash it away, because my brother had been telling me about homes that you could get for sale by owner on contract, where you don't deal with the bank, you just buy it from the owner. And traditionally, it seems like in this area, the down payment's $1,000. So I thought to myself, I'm going to save up $1,000 and I'm going to have my brother find a home for me out there in Iowa. And while we're still living in California, I can rent the home out. And if something happens and we can't stay in California anymore, we have a home we can go to in Iowa. We have a home. And homes were so reasonable. He was looking at a 2-story Victorian for like $29,000. And I thought, I can do that. The payments would be doable if I had somebody renting it. I'm going to buy a little house on contract. So I had started saving all of my money, and I actually had it in an envelope, and I was stuffing it underneath the chair so that my husband would never find it. I thought, when I get my $1,000, I'm going to tell him what I'm going to do. Well, a few weeks went by, and he came home from work one night, and he sat down at the ottoman at my feet, and I was working on a crochet project. And he said, I have to talk to you about something, and it's really serious. And I thought, oh, your heart just sinks. Did he quit his job? Did he get fired? Is he sick and he's just now telling me? Or heaven forbid, is he having an affair? Something big is coming my way, and I just don't even know how to prepare for it. But he looks at me and he says, what do you think about moving to Iowa? And I was completely shocked. I was like, what? He says, I've been thinking about it. And what do you think about moving to Iowa? And I said, oh, you're teasing me. Stop teasing me. It's not funny. It's not fun to play with my emotions like that. That's not very nice. And he said, no, I'm not teasing. I really think I'm ready to leave California. I need to be out of California. I'm tired of the dog-eat-dog world. And I think I'm ready to go back to Iowa. And after I determined that he was not playing with my emotions and pulling my leg a little bit there, I reached underneath the chair I was sitting in and I pulled out my envelope and I had $700 in there. And I said, I've been selling my crochet work so I could get $1,000 so we could put a down payment on a house in Iowa. And it was like, whoa, mind blown. We had started thinking about it at the same time and didn't say anything to each other. So later that week, I put in my 3-day notice to my job that I had been at for 8 years. He put in the notice for his work. We sold my dream car, which was a Mustang GT. We liquidated a lot of our belongings and we packed up. And by mid-March, we were on our way to Iowa. When we arrived here, we rented a little home and we started looking for a homestead. And my sister and I, we were going to go on a farm crawl one day, and that's where you visit little farms in the area and learn about how they operate. And we were going to get together for a farm crawl. And she came to pick me up in my little rented home. And we'd only been here about 6 months. And she says, you know, I've never noticed it before, but right around the corner from me, there's a farm. And I don't think anybody lives there. I think it's empty. She goes, let's go check it out. So we drove over to this farm, and sure enough, it had not been lived in for several years. And we looked around, and there's just something about it that spoke to me. The minute we pulled on the property, it's like, this speaks to me. So we were on our way to the second farm of our farm crawl, and we asked the owner of that farm, we said, do you know who owns the farm over at this street and this street on the corner there? And she said, yes, I do. And so I gave her my contact information. I said, would you please get in touch with the owner of that farm for me? Give them my information. I'd like to see about renting that farm. So I was surprised that the next week I was actually receiving a phone call from the owners of that farm. And I said, I'm really interested in discussing this farm with you. We're new transplants from California. We've got family that's been in the area for over 30 years, and we're looking for a place. Would you be willing to meet with us and discuss possibly doing something with that farm? And they agreed. So the next week we drove over to the farm and we met with them. And the farm needed a lot of work. It had been sitting empty for about 5 years. They'd had issues with teenagers coming in and, breaking in and having parties. And a couple places they'd set the floor on fire, and it just needed work. And so after we looked at the farm with them and everything, I asked them, I said, would you consider renting the farm to us, and we'll do a lot of the work of the cleanup and we'll kind of caretake it. If you can make us a good deal, we'd love to rent this farm from you. And they just looked at us and they said, oh, no. They were not interested in renting out this farm. And my heart just sunk. But they said, we would be willing to sell it to you on contract. Flutter. Oh my gosh, what? You'd be willing to sell it on contract? No banks, nothing, just sell it on contract? And I said, well, what are your terms? And they gave us the price and they said $1,000 down. I had the $1,000. I had the $1,000 down. We came up with all of the specifics for making the purchase, and on January 1, 2014, we received the keys to our very own white farmhouse. The payments were manageable. The people that we bought the farm from, they were so easy to work with, and within 2 years we had this farm paid off and it was ours. And I've enjoyed having a garden. I grow tomatoes. We've had our animals. We have our chickens that I collect eggs from every day. I have my country kitchen. I grow sunflowers. We have a grove of trees that have snow in them in the wintertime that I just love looking at. I have a clawfoot tub. I have the serenity and the joy, and I'm still selling my crochet items. This is my craft room, and I sell my crochet items, and that's my job, and I love it. And that is how that vision board really changed my life. I saw that interpretation, I wanted it, and I went for it, and here we are. 8 years now on this farm as of January 1. I'd like to know from you, have you ever done a vision board? If you have, make sure you comment below. Tell me about the process, and did anything come of it? Were you able to see that vision and bring it to fruition? I'd love to hear about it. If you haven't done a vision board yet, I'd like to encourage you to make one. Comment below. Let me know if you plan to do one as well. I'm happy I did mine. So thank you to my friend Luz for setting up that beautiful brunch and encouraging me to do my first vision board. It's hard to believe that I've hung on to it for this entire time. I've had it for 8 years, and it's a very important piece of my life. It brought me here. So until I get to speak to you again, thank you so much for joining me here on the farm. I hope to see you again soon. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a blessed day.